now. So this is the mechanical and electrical bid Q&A for Eve Park. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. We just wanted to give all the bidders a overview of the Eve Park project as well as of the bid and any upcoming addendas, and give the opportunity for some questions and answers. So just to quickly overview the project, Eve Park is located at the corner of West Elborn and Shore. I'm sure that many of you have been out that way in the Riverbend and West 5 community. It's up at the northwest corner of West 5. It does connect to the West 5 smart grid. All of that work would be done by others. However, it's quite an innovative project that features net zero energy design, as well as other sustainability designs. It is an 84 unit townhome development that ranges from 1 bedroom or 1-story units up to 3 bedroom units that are 3 stories. And then we have stacked 2s at the end of each building. Each building is virtually identical, barring the electrical room is different in building B, but otherwise all of the layouts are similar between A, B, C, and D. The construction order will actually be staged between A, starting at A, and then alphabetically going B, C, and then D. There are 21 units per building, and there's the unit mix is shown there. Again, this is a net zero energy design, and it is all electrical, and there is all electric, and there is no gas connection to the project. Here are just a couple of relevant project details which you should be able to see in the design and the specifications. We do have a solar PV on the roof that will be installed by Essex, as well as a microgrid system as well installed by others. The building is sprinkled throughout the units, as well as having a fire alarm system as well implemented. We have, and Steve from SNA will be giving an overview of the design, but we do have air source heat pumps as the main HVAC system, as well as a fiber optic network. And then finally, as an innovative part of the project is we do have these automated parking towers at the end of each cluster, which here's a schematic design of what they look like. It's a rotary parking tower that has between 12 or 14 parking spots. All the parking spots are electric vehicle charging ready, and these systems are manufactured and actually put together by a company in Hamilton that we are working with, and they will be coming to site for the installation. We do have a integration with a smart technology company called Smart One that provides the control, and that will actually integrate with the controls for the HVAC as well as smart switches. We have several
questions along the way, or do you want us to hold the questions?
I think to hold the questions till the end if possible.
Okay. Is it okay if I put one in the chat?
Yes. Then suite features. We have the LED lighting in all of the units. We have WaterSense rated fixtures and toilets, smart light switches, and a smart thermostat. For the appliances, we have, as I mentioned previously, we have no gas. We have all electric appliances, heat pump dryer, induction cooktops, as well as an electric water heater. And we do have energy recovery ventilators throughout the units. On this team, we're lucky to have Ellis Don as our construction management company, as well as S2E is the owner of the project, and Gensler is the architect. On the line, we have Smith and Anderson, who did the mechanical and electrical design for the project. And then our other sub-consultants include Stantec for civil, DVNS for structural, Arup did the parking tower structural design, and Shift did the landscape design. If you have any questions, we're sure that you'll be connected with the consulting team as the project rolls along. So thank you for that. And I don't know if we want to, oh, sorry, just to clarify, Derek did make a clarification that EV charging ready means that no EV chargers are installed besides the ones that will until the end when we have the owners disclose whether they have electric vehicles and whether they require a charger. Thanks for that clarification, Derek. And now to pass it off to Mike to give a quick overview of the bid package and if there's anything that you'd like to clarify there, Mike.
Sure, Ashley. I don't know if you've got some slides to keep rolling through. We're construction managers for the project. We're working within a CCDC 5A, so all contracts are direct with S2E Technologies. During the tender process, all communication is to flow through Craig Gooch from S2E Technologies, but we will point out some of the things that you should be aware of within that tender package that we would be managing once you get on site. Ashley has provided a brief overview of the scope of work that we're building here. As you go through the package, you will find tender documents that again should be filled out and directed to S2E. But filling out those tender packages, as far as the scope goes, you will find various schedules in the back of the document. Schedule A is the scope of work. Schedule B is the list of documentation. Schedule C is a safety policy. Schedule D is an enviro policy. Schedule I are insurance requirements for the project. And last but not least, the last schedule there is the project schedule. And the final schedule at the end is the form of contract that you will enter into with S2E Technologies, which is a CCDC 17. Again, we're here to manage and facilitate the work. However, throughout the bid process, all communication is to be with S2E Technologies, and Craig Gooch will be managing the questions and answers and RFIs that come through. And that's a very high level overview of the document. Please ensure that you are familiar with all of those appendixes in there, because they do form the requirement of work on the site, as well as what your eventual contract will be in the CCDC 17 with S2E Technologies. One item of note should be the schedule. When you do review the schedule, buildings have been split into two phases. Two buildings are to proceed first, and the following buildings C and D are to go in the spring of next year. There are some questions in there on separate prices about combining those schedules and accelerating, but as the schedule is drawn is how the project is intended to be built. And that's about all from our end, Ashley.
Thank you for that, Mike. And so Steve, I don't know if you're okay to give just a brief overview of the mechanical systems for Eve Park and anything that the bidder should be aware of.
Sure, why don't I share my screen? Would that be okay?
That would be wonderful, thank you.
Okay, I'm not going to go through every single drawing. I'm just going to hit the highlights. Before we get into the drawings, though, I do want to highlight that there is a complete book specification as well, and included in that specification are the equipment schedules. So just take note that there is more information that is part of the contract documents than just the drawings. The first portion of the drawing we're looking at here is just highlighting each suite has its own water service, its own local electric hot water tank, and water metering to be provided by a third-party metering company. Storm drainage is unique to these buildings. Although we're collecting storm drainage at the roof level, it is actually splashing to grade. It is not connecting to the municipal service, and you'll see where those outlets are on the floor plans. As Ashley mentioned, there is no natural gas on this site, so the HVAC solution for this project is an air source heat pump solution. We have a completed refrigeration schematic for each suite. So we've laid out the requirements for each suite with respect to condensing units and fan coil units that are required throughout the project. Then we have all of our typical floor plans. Just want to note on ground floor, there are some limited areas that are common areas for the condominium building, and we have both plumbing and HVAC drawings for these areas. So there is some miscellaneous systems associated with mechanical beyond the suites. They're mainly localized heating and ventilation systems. I'm just going to jump to the detailed suite layouts. And as Ashley mentioned, yes, this building is sprinklered throughout. The majority of information is contained in these suite details towards the back of our suite, and you'll see that we've provided complete layouts, including all refrigeration piping, domestic water piping, and HVAC ducting throughout all the suites. It's all double lined, not single lined. So we've kind of outlined how the systems are to be brought together and the routing through each suite with respect to risers. So it's fairly specific. Each suite does have a local ERV unit. This is providing our heat recovery on ventilation air being brought into the building, as well as exchanging that energy with air being exhausted from each suite. You'll also note that there's also symbols in each suite which are actually local electric heating devices. This is just to provide some trim heat in areas that are not properly served by ERVs, I mean by evaporators, and we didn't want to get into adding more evaporators and making these systems more expensive and complex. Just to highlight in an upcoming addenda that we're going to be issuing, we're going to be clarifying the control of these additional heat sources with the details of integration with the Smart One control package that's going to be provided for each suite. As far as highlights on addendas coming up, we've issued addendum 1. Addendum 1 is mainly to clarify a few building permit comments, such as sprinkler risers and just the alternate location for the incoming water room. Next is addendum 2. Addendum 2 is going to feature separate prices, and we're going to be asking for separate prices for 2 unique suite upgrades with respect to layout and the number of evaporators. And that'll be separate price 1. There'll be 1 price for each suite type. And then separate price 2 is going to be a ERV unit upgrade for each suite. That'll be separate price number 2. And again, as previously mentioned, also part of that addendum will be the clarification on the control system throughout. Okay, Ashley, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you for that, Stephen. I don't know if there was any clarifications or anything or any questions from anyone at this point. Otherwise, we can pass it off to Brad to give a quick overview of the electrical design.
Sure, I'm just going to share my screen as well.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, so similar to mechanical, please pay attention to the specification document. It does include additional schedules for equipment as well as panel board schedules. So moving through, I think, you know, the critical part of this project is going to be the distribution. I'll just run through that quickly and help explain what's happening there. So the main service coming from London Hydro, it'll be bulk metered. We'll be entering building B for the full site, and building B switchboard will then have feeds to each of the other 3 buildings. And why this becomes important is this area out front of building B, there'll be a lot of excavation, a lot of coordination of duct banks. And you'll see in our duct bank schedules details that we can't have feeders too close together. They need to be spaced apart so that the heat from one feed doesn't affect the ampacity of a separate independent feed. So that'll require a good amount of coordination with construction manager. Addendum 1 was issued as well, which updates the Bell utility service requirements. And this adds a little bit of complexity to the area where we now have an in-grade box outside of building B. From this box, there will be a service conduit to each of the individual buildings. As well, as mentioned, there's PV distribution, and each of these buildings will have a photovoltaic system, and the PV will be gathered back at Building B main electrical room as well. So we have distribution going out, PV coming in, and communications duct banks as well, all feeding from Building B main service room. So as you dig into this, you'll understand why this area becomes very important in terms of coordination. So as we go through the drawings, you'll see the main single line diagram, which helps further clarify what I just mentioned about main service and Building B, and then feeds out to each of the buildings A, C, and D. There will be a sub-metering, low voltage metering system for the each individual suite. So there will be some infrastructure to be included as part of the electrical work for that as well. The second single line diagram here is the infrastructure for the photovoltaic system. Equipment and feeders is by PV contractor. However, there is coordination here for infrastructure from roof down to each individual building electrical room, as well from each individual building back to the Building B main distribution electrical room. Aside from that, you'll see each, we've laid out each individual suite floor plan. And within those floor plans, for the building, you'll see there's an electrical closet or room adjacent to the parking structure, as well as a main electrical room in each building on the opposite side of the building, which would house the switchboard. Again, Building B being the main distribution hub for the site has a slightly different layout. You can see here as it houses the main switchboard and PV distribution compared to a typical, one of the other typical 3 buildings. The units themselves, fairly straightforward in terms of power and distribution. And allowing also feeds from each suite. You'll see there's some rooftop condensing units that will feed each of the individual units. So there will be some work there to get from suite panels to the respective condensing unit. Only other thing I'll touch on is there may be questions that arise about scope of work for the parking tower itself. And the scope is limited for the electrical contractor in that we're providing some maintenance lighting and emergency lighting in the parking structure, as well some of the infrastructure from this electrical room to some pole boxes inside the parking structure that can be utilized by the installation contractor for the parking system. And there will be some space allocated within the electrical sub-electrical room that will allow the parking contractor to install their control panels and distribution equipment. So a little bit of coordination between parking system installer and electrical contractor. And that high level is the main scope of work for electrical.
Thank you for that, Brad. Are there any questions or clarifications on the electrical scope from anyone? So the last thing that I'll just quickly mention is that we do have a tutorial that's available for the Ideal site. So if anybody has any issues of going into the data room where they have everything set up, in the initial invite, there's actually a YouTube link in there that will walk you through how to access it. But you should have gotten an email from construction@evepark.ca, and the actual email address that's listed on there, even though it'll say it's from construction, is invitations@ideals VDR. And you just press enter data room and it'll walk you through setting up your profile. And then this will lead you directly to the site. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to Craig Gooch and our construction@epark.ca email if there are any questions or clarifications. With that, I don't know if there are any other questions or anything else that we want to review. If not, we're really honored to have everyone bidding on this project and very excited to see as all the bids come in and are eager to get the opportunity to work with you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you very much for your time.